It has burst upon us in the bellowing power of the turbine. It has rushed in on the new shapes of wings, swept and delta and crescent, and the glittering hulls they lift. It has soared up suddenly out of the mathematics of the back room into the sky, out of the draftsman's dreams into the stratosphere and through the sonic barrier. Look up, and there it is, the new Elizabethan age, Britain's age of leadership in aviation. Look up? Yes, there's the rub. For most of us, it's still a case of looking up from down below, of looking up and looking on. Go by air. Travel with the speed and service of the sky. Oh, the advertisements are attractive, all right. And so is the bustle of the airports, the ordered urgency of passports, tickets, baggage checks, the feeling of anticipation. But what of you and me? What of all us ordinary folk with friends and relatives across the sea, who'd like to visit Aunt Jane in Auckland, Uncle Jim in Adelaide, Cousin Lou in Calgary? Will there soon be seats for us? Or shall we always be just lookers up and lookers on? Of all the revolutionary aircraft that have recently emerged from British factories, it may well be that this, the great Princess, will do most to bring the air within reach of the man and woman in the street. In her tremendous wing there are 10 engines, and she needs them all, for she's built to carry no less than 200 passengers. But most significant is the fact that the Princess is a flying boat, landing and taking off from water. Why should flying boats seem so important to all of us who want a future in the air? Well, let's look at what they've done for Britain in the past. It was the First World War that launched the seaborne aircraft on its long and flexible career of service. In those days, the submarines were Britain's deadly foe. And here was a new weapon for searching out their dark shapes as they moved across the seafloor. It was a handy weapon, too. It required no aerodromes specially constructed. It could come and go from any point around our coasts. Wherever there was water, the seaplane could be based. The next step was to make the seaplane independent of a shore base altogether, to take it to sea with the fleet as part of the equipment of any large warship. The catapult did the trick. How to get still longer range, still greater flexibility? This was one method. To launch the aircraft from a floating hangar, operating right on the enemy's doorstep. Here was the beginning of the carrier. Then the twin floats vanished and the hull itself became waterborne. The seaplane became the larger, safer flying boat, capable of carrying more bombs for attack, or more fuel for the long ocean patrols. No wonder that in peacetime, too, the countries of a maritime commonwealth should adopt so versatile an aircraft. In Australia, Canada, New Zealand, working from sea or lake or river, flying boats did the aerial chores, fetching and carrying, surveying, developing resources. Then the flying boat came into its own on a worldwide scale. It was in the 1930s that the famous C-class Empire flying boats were built to serve the long-distance routes between Great Britain and her sister nations. They carried 15 passengers in solid comfort, express cargo, and all Empire's first-class mail at surface rates. They were the most celebrated aircraft of their day. They pioneered the North Atlantic route from Southampton to New York. Sweeping south to Africa, east to the Antipodes, they gave Britain undisputed mastery of the over-ocean airways of the globe. Once more, they were flexible and cheap to operate. All they required was a stretch of water and facilities to moor and fuel. And again, the same question, how to combine the cheapness and convenience of seaborne aircraft with still longer range. The Short Mayo Composite still holds the non-stop record from Dundee to the Orange River, 6,000 miles. Then, in 1939, came the final demonstration, if anywhere required, of the value and the versatility of the flying boats. For it was they that rode herd on the convoys, 12 hours at a stretch, warning of the wolf packs that lay in wait, warning, attacking, scattering. It was a British Sunderland that ferreted out the German cruiser Königsberg and delivered it to the RAF. It was an American-built Catalina that brought the Navy's guns to bear on the mammoth Bismarck. Again, the flying boat had proved its worth as the natural, indispensable instrument of a seafaring people in an airfaring age. But if the last war crowned the achievements of the flying boat, it also gave an overwhelming lead to the land-based aeroplane. For in the emergency, the Allies had crisscrossed the world with military airstrips, concrete stepping stones around the globe, built without thought of cost. That's one reason why land planes eclipsed the flying boat in post-war aviation. But many British airmen point out that when it comes to planning cheap air travel for all, land planes have a serious disadvantage. Their size is limited by the length of the runway available. What about all those millions, they ask, and they're talking of you and me, who are waiting to fly even now at a price they can afford? If the air's ever to capture this huge traffic, then the planes must be infinitely bigger than the aircraft that we know today. But the larger the land plane, the more costly the runway. And this, they say, is what's happening everywhere. As land planes increase in size and weight, so the runways must be lengthened and strengthened to keep pace. Sometimes up to 2 miles now of solid concrete, 30 inches thick. So the cost of airports goes up and up, adding in the end to the cost of flying as a whole. Why go on, they ask. What's wrong with this? It's nature's airport, and it costs so little to adapt and maintain. On water, the biggest aircraft can take off and land. And if you want a bigger aircraft still, all you need is more water. After all, 3/4 of the world is water, and with much of it our Commonwealth pilots are already familiar. It was from this approach to the future of civilian flying that the idea of the Princess came. She would be a flying boat, thus drawing on Britain's great experience of overwater flight. But she would be of unprecedented size, her weight 140 tons. Her size would be the key to her success, for size in turn would mean huge carrying capacity and enormous range. 5,500 miles in still air, 3,500 miles through any wind and weather in the world. This wave maker can reproduce the form of any wave a flying boat might encounter in any sea. Here, the miniature Princess was tested for stability and spray characteristics, for behavior at the critical moments of takeoff and landing. In the wind tunnel, her designers studied lift and drag and flying qualities. And now it's no longer models, but the real thing. In the shops, her bones are coming together, the light, tough, stiffening members that will form her skeleton. The hull takes shape, and with it the Princess begins to hint at the scale and space that her bold design embodies. 3 big passenger saloons, as well as private cabins, staircases, 2 cargo holds, kitchens, cloakrooms, and a restroom for the crew. A flying ship. All in all, her internal capacity will be just about the same as a whole suburban train, and pressurized for comfort at 40,000 feet. The engines. For trial flights, she's equipped with 10 Bristol Proteus propeller turbines, 8 of them mounted in pairs, the 2 outer engines singly. Later on, she'll be powered for a cruising speed of nearly 400 miles an hour. Not many years ago, the Sunderlands were among the largest flying boats in the world. Now, one of them acts as an aerial test bed to try out the Princess's power-operated controls. She's nearly ready for the slipway, and her size dwarfs everything around. Size, yes, but simplicity as well. For in the cockpit, the 2 pilots in command of the whole huge bulk of her will have before them only the master controls and instruments, about half the gadgetry of many a single-seater fighter. All else will be looked after by the flight engineers. And here she is on her birthday, ready for launching, ready for sea and sky, the largest flying boat Britain's ever built. The Princess waiting for her trials. Vision of men who want to see a seat in the sky, not for just the few, but eventually for us all. As the test crew go out to her, they know that there's more at stake than a single mighty aircraft. For the Princess symbolizes at once a long tradition in British aviation and a totally new outlook. The firm belief of her designers that if the air is to be the everyday means of travel of us all, it must be on the grand scale. For only size they hold, big aircraft carrying big payloads can ensure low fares. The Princess is on trial, and so too is a great idea. The idea of an aircraft large enough to carry hundreds in comfort at a moderate price, yet calling for a minimum of the elaborate ground facilities that can only add to the cost of land-based services. There are few runways anywhere that could accommodate an aircraft so gigantic. Yet the harbours of the whole round world are open to her. Her runway is the sea. Her trials are a culminating success, the complete vindication of all who designed and built her. To put a place in the clouds for you and me. That's the idea behind the Princess. And that's why she's among the most significant aircraft of Britain's new Elizabethan age of aviation. No wonder that with her coming, the attention of airmen all round the Commonwealth is focusing once more on the design that has served them so long and so well. The flying boat.